Right, good evening everybody. Welcome to the 5th edition of Sip and Sketch. And tonight we are doing something that is more of a corporate orientation. So as a result of the disconnect that may perhaps have happened over the course of this lockdown, it's time to hopefully have tagged your colleagues or said to your boss, this is what we got to do. And we have had a couple of questions regarding I can hardly draw a stick figure. And the amount of times, if I had a penny for every time I've heard that I can only draw stick figures in my lifetime, been able to put the whole country through education by this stage. So it's not about not being able to draw. That's our entire point, is that I'm going to be walking you through step by step, taking stick figures and putting them into a scenario where they ultimately become something. And the idea is that you just want a simple A4 piece of paper and a basic pilot fine liner that we talked about earlier in the week. And if you haven't been able to source one of these pilot fine liners, we have several. If you haven't been able to source one of these pilot fine liners, it's not the end of the world. You can just go along with your normal pen or a G2. Any water-based pen would work. You got to be careful of the technology when it gets to an art store and they say, no, this is waterproof pen. Sometimes the waterproof ends up being a little bit confusing. It's actually meant to be water-based. You want to avoid the waterproof pens because when you put water on top of them, they're not going to work. And so the idea is that we want to walk you through a simple step-by-step process. And these are some of the drawings that we worked with over the course of the last couple of weeks, where we'll zoom you in so that you can see what is going on in detail. But it is, as you can see, it is a very simple process and a simple image that I will walk you through. And the artworks that, if you look back in various posts, you will see that the artworks that are produced are actually really quite extraordinary, because it is taking away inhibitions. It is getting rid of this concept that we have an expectation of what something is supposed to look like, especially if you are doing it with somebody and you're looking at theirs, which is what's going to happen. And I'll remind you of this in a couple of minutes' time, when if you're drawing with somebody, you're looking at theirs and it's like, is theirs better than yours? And it's the same thing about life. You're always looking and comparing to somebody else. And we've got to be very careful of that. And what this whole sip and sketch concept is about is that we try and just do something because it doesn't matter. And what I would encourage you to do this evening is just to post your pictures at the end of the evening and say, I had no idea, it didn't matter, and this is what I created. And we've had a couple of angry faces in the past. And thank you to those of you that have posted those. I haven't really understood why, and I'm sorry that I've made your life a misery. But this is really just supposed to be an evening out with the team, with the family, during a scenario where you perhaps are a little bit locked down. And it's just a simple step-by-step, little bit of fun. And so this is what we did a couple of weeks ago. This was the first drawing that we did. And then we went into another simple landscape that we were looking at as well. Really looking at background, middle of foreground. And then we had our amazing disaster week 3, where we were looking at cliffs, and we had an amazing response from people that had done it that said, cliffs ruined my life, and cliffs were awful, and I can't draw cliffs, and I'm sorry. We then bounced back to keeping things a little bit more simple, and we went for ultimately a bridge scene with what was called like a derelict house in the background. And thank you, Ian Fraser McKenzie from the Mount in New Zealand, a couple of hours south of Auckland, who wasn't very complimentary about my bridge. He said if that were to be a real bridge, I think people would die. And so it is. I'm not an engineer. This is really just about putting blocks together on top of one another and having a little bit of fun. So They are not supposed to be drawings that you can take away and say to somebody, your architect perhaps, and say, I would like this in the back garden, because it won't be something that would pass H&S. Okay, so we're going to start something a little bit different this week, because we are focusing on what is called a corporate sip and sketch. I'm going to make mine to be an A4, but I want you to put yours in what is called a portrait mode, which landscape profile. All right, so I'm putting that horizontally. Okay, I'm making mine. This is what would be the equivalent of your A4. I'm going to zoom you in so that you can see. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us okay. And if you can't, I'm sorry. We are working on it. All right, so we've got this as our basic outline. This would be the outside of your page. You don't need to do a frame within your piece of paper. This is going to be the total piece of paper that we're working with. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions this evening, which is something we haven't done yet, about how we would analyze art, and talking about the concept of business and how we relate it to ourselves, and how we actually relate it to creating an artwork. So when you see this splurge of paint all over a wall and you're expected to have this in-depth understanding of what conceptual art is all about, there are just three basic rules you need to remember about how to analyze an artwork. And everybody can do it. The first thing is to understand what the content is. The second thing is to understand the form, how it was made. And then the third thing is the context. So it's content, form, and context. The what, the how, and the why. And you can pretty much make up anything about that as long as you understand the context. And what we do every day also, what are you doing every day? How are you doing it? And why are you doing it? And all of those things in these innovative times should be, especially with your business, current, relevant, and applicable. All right, so we look at what the content of your business is this evening, and I want you to think about how you're going about creating that business, and then ultimately the context that you are running that business in. And are all of those current, relevant, and applicable, so that we can create the art of being you and the art of your business. Okay, so we are going to do something that is sort of business-oriented this evening as well. Give us a shout out about your business and what it is that you do. And you can put it in the comments section. And if you want, you can put a contact number there. And anyone who wants to be a part of what your business is about, they can then contact you. And we can share our knowledge and information. Okay, this is either going to go absolutely pear-shaped, or it's going to be absolutely amazing. Both I will enjoy. Right. So what we've got, usually we look at understanding where the center of a page is, all right, on both sides, the center, and then we've got the quarters. You don't have to put these dots in. It's just so that we can see the basic skill of drawing is, or re-representing is where something is compared to something else, is having that ability to see that compared to that. All right, and so hopefully we've given about 5 minutes for everyone to get their stuff together. And if there's anyone in the room that is just being an observer, it's not their fault that they do not have the confidence. But I would suggest you just tell them, you've got nothing to lose. It's like life. It is a safe space. I'm certainly not there. This is not like Survivor where I can walk around and say, you are useless, you're evicted. It is not the case at all. It's a very happy space just to make art. And watch, you will see, and I hope you don't regret at the end that you have missed out. Well, that's teacher talk coming out, so I apologize. Let's get going with a little bit of fun. All right, so we've got 1/4 across, and then we've got 1/4 up, and in this little bottom quadrant would be the one focal point that we're wanting to look for. And so if you can find the bottom left-hand quadrant center, so if we go halfway, we go left, and we've got that 1/4. All right, and we go 1/4 of the way up, and we come into where those two would meet. That is going to be our starting point. So you can have your little pen, and you can start there. And our first line we're wanting to do is we're wanting to bring it to be about a finger's width up the side of your page that you've got there. All right, we want to have a sort of straight line. And the idea is, this is your first stick figure. Here's a long dude. All right, and if you get it once off, magical. And the idea is, if I had to give you a little skill, you don't want to use the metacarpals. You want to try and keep your fingers held firmly and nice and stiff. And what you're going to do is you're going to move your arm rather, move about your elbow, so there are fewer wobbles that are going along the way. And especially if you have got a board, you can move with the board in front of you like this, and you get that nice straight line, straightish line. And if you want to scribble backwards and forwards in order to make sure you got the right line, perfect, because no one's actually going to judge. And I'm very excited to hear who's actually looked at the person's next to theirs already, because I'm pretty sure that somebody might have done that already. All right, from there, let's go across the other side. You're going to see that however high you've taken that up off the right-hand side, if somebody has come off the bottom, that's fascinating, because what we're looking at is we want to make sure that you want to try and rather keep it off the side there rather than come off the bottom. Let's take another line straight off the left-hand side there. All right. Okay, so Craig Jennings, a nice shout out to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Confirm Accounting, it's a Peter Maritzburg-based accounting firm. And that's exciting to have you with us this evening. So if anyone's looking for PMB-based accountant, Craig's your man. All right, so we've got those lines coming out there. Come to think of it, if you need accounting anyway, as we've seen, you can actually do this from anywhere in the world. Give somebody give Craig a shout, and he'll probably be able to do your numbers from anywhere in the world. All right, so just like this, where are you drawing from? Hopefully, Trace, we've got you from Minnesota this afternoon. All right, so what we've got is from this point here, okay, we're going to come across until we get in between. This is the first tricky part. We've got a quarter of the way in from the left, from the right, up to halfway. If we go halfway, in between that, we get to a point. All right, we go into a point there. I want you to remember that point, because what we're going to do is we're going to come across from the left-hand side, the height of our horizon vanishing point there. We're going to come across, pass over that vanishing point, and come across until we are in line with that point there. All right, so that's our starting point. We're going to come across. That's the first bit of technical things there. But literally, we've got 3 stick figures now. My apologies, I haven't actually zoomed in yet. Let's get you right in nice and close. Okay. So that we are nice and so that you can really see what's right. That should be a bit better. All right, thank you for giving us that information. Okay, so now from there, we've got in between these 2 lines that we've ended up with here. I'll give you 2 seconds to catch up. There, my apologies. All right, the idea is that we should be able to complete this in about half an hour. So at about 22, you'll be able to get the rest of the world up and running again. Okay, so in between these 2 finishing points here, all right, what you're looking to do is, this is going to be what we'll call our reference point the entire evening. All right, we want to be able to use that as a reference point, and we would come out, get to that point, and then we're going to start drawing a line and come out until we just come towards the last. If we see, we're coming towards about the same distance apart from the side. So we are about 1/8 of the way. And if we say that that's a quarter, we're coming to about 1/8 of the way across. So we're not all the way off the side. We want to be about, I don't know, 1/8. Okay, but it's in the same direction. We're looking to use our perspective. If we were to do a dotted line, it would come from that and keep going outwards. All our lines, if they were to go from there, they would go in straight lines outwards. We're looking at doing this expanse. All right. So now from there, this is where it gets exciting, and it can either go pear-shaped or you'll be online and ready to go. We're going to go straight up from this point, past our horizon there, and again, the same distance above that. All right, so a straight line, and you can scribble backwards and forwards, nice and simple, up and down. From the mount, I'm just going to be drawing boxes, so there'll be less trauma about your bridges failing, and it should make everybody feel a bit more comfortable. Right, what we're going to do now in order to determine the side of this building, and this is where you could find yourself on a picnic, or you've decided to stop one day and you're on the side of the road having some sandwiches, either fixing a tire perhaps, or you've just been driving for some time and need to let the kids out and you've got 20 minutes to do a drawing. You want to be able to have everything based on a certain space. You can look at everything comes from a certain point. You can create that. If we've got from that vanishing point, we come meet our line and we keep going, we want it to be able to meet this line that's come out here. We stop, we take that line up, it's going to meet, if we were to continue this line out here, that's where those two lines would meet. So I did say that the most complicated part you were going to come across is putting a couple of stick figures together. Well, we have to almost project, pretend we can almost see. So you draw lightly and see where this might come out to. We get to that point there. All right, and so we've got those two as a reference point there. All right, that's looking actually amazing. Not bad. Well done. Okay, and so now in the background here, what we're going to do is create a little bit of chaos. And in between your two, you've this outside area. I want you to go down and divide the space into thirds. So you've got 1, 2, 3. You've got thirds there. All right, you divide that left-hand line into thirds, and I want you to come out towards your halfway out towards the side, and I want you to draw that third vertical line there. So you've got a box space coming out to the side here. All right, because what you're wanting to do is we're wanting to do a join up of the top line, and we want to join up the bottom line there. All right, so we've got our back of our building in the foreground here. If you were to continue your horizon line going all the way through, it should come out the back. If you find that if you were to continue this line coming out, you want to avoid having a problem. Otherwise your building might be floating. You might have to just use a bit of artistic license and maybe make your horizon a little bit higher so that your building isn't floating. Right, but we'll shout out to their Mark from Right Hand Designs. He's a Hilton-based web and graphic design company. Web and graphic design. We've had some work done by him. He is phenomenal. So a nice shout out there to Mark. He is actually really quite brilliant. Those guys that are able to take art to the next level. All right, so we're looking now at, if you were to have this as a building, you've got to try and find the middle part. But usually when you find those lines going away, you want to make sure, if you were to just divide this in half, it would be quite tricky because that's not usually where the apex is. We want to be able to take go a little bit further down towards the horizon there. So let's take it maybe 1/3, just before 2/3, we're going to come up and we'll put a dot. And why I say this, because this is going to be the apex of your roof. All right. So that is if you were to put it directly in the middle, your roof would look a little bit square, a little bit off balance. So we're wanting to just give you a little bit of leeway in that thinking there. Right, so you draw your triangle. And that's why I said these houses can start looking like fabulous derelict buildings because they are designed in very interesting ways. Okay, and so off the back here now, if you'll find this line is quite straight, we might find that we're not going to be able to get enough of an apex off the back here, but I'm going to bring mine up a little bit off the back here. We've got a little line that's going to go upwards, all right, not past your vertical wall in the front here, all right, and from that point, which will be the apex of our roof, we're going to then join our line coming forward there. And now we are creating geometric chaos here because I know that this is the type of building that Ian again would be having flick-flacks over. Don't have flick-flacks, Ian. This is just some fun. Okay, so, and on that building, what I'd like you to do is just run your lines. So our first bit of coloring in, you just want to run your lines. Just to color that in, you can scribble it in there nicely. So that's the side of the roof that we're looking at. Okay, so it's our building off the right-hand side of the picture here. Now, what we have inside this is we have a vertical and another vertical. All right, how high do we make those verticals? If this was to be, we're going to create a door. We go up halfway, and we go up halfway in that thing. If we were to draw a line to meet those two, you would get the right angle in order to create that shape. All right, so you've got the ability to generate. If you want your roof to be a bit higher, so here, have it more towards the top, you would then create a bigger angle. You would then just be able to do that, and you would then have a bigger opening. So you've got to follow the shape, the bottom line going up. Wherever you want to put your lines, you just make sure that the top of it is following the perspective, what are called guiding lines at the top and guiding lines at the bottom, so that you create a nice work in it. All right. Now, a nice shout out to Cindy Murray, who's Infinity HR Consulting. She's an HR, labor and law consultant. So that's all in one. That's pretty impressive, Cindy. Nice to have you with us this evening. And that's Cindy Murray. Well done. Okay, so what we've got on the side there, now we just need to make sure, as soon as we put a little, we duplicate on the right-hand side there, another vertical line, we're just going to show how thick our wall is. All right, so if we do another line, and we just do it, just squeeze in another line there, you will find that we can create it creates an entry point for you to be able to go in. And this is where things start to sort of come together, and people either bail or they have forgotten to have a sip of tea or coffee or a glass of wine. So don't let your mouth dry out. You want to be enjoying this process. And thank you again to everybody for joining us this evening. Now, that same process, if we were to put a door on the front here, we've got this leading line on the front, top and the bottom, and we come into the middle. If we were to go about 2/3 the way up, what's the top of the door? It's supposed to be about 2.2. And so let's just pretend that our vertical is there, and we've got another vertical there. All right, and then we put a line on the top. You can make up where your door wants to be. You can have a short one if you're a hobbit. Those are fairy tales though, but if this were to be in Hobbiton, you could have a very short one, or if you want to have a tall one, you can have a very tall one. And the idea is that however high you want to make it, you use the top line as the guiding line, and as you come down, more and more you just want to avoid having a line that isn't following the rules. Okay, and then again on the left-hand side, you can show how thick that wall is by bringing a line vertically down. And again, we color that guy in just by doing a straight scribble. Okay, nice and simple. We're creating a real sort of light and dark concept here. So that's actually working quite nicely. We get a sense of depth. And a happy birthday to Trevor, 69th. That's some good mileage. That's excellent. Well done. Happy birthday, Trevor. And well done for joining, making some art this evening on your birthday. This is definitely going to be one that you remember. And so inside now, to create some more depth, Trevor, give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying this, or it is perhaps your worst birthday and you wish you had never been told about it. Both, again, I will enjoy equally. So the inside of this here, you're going to perhaps have to color in just again. So you make one a little bit darker than the other. So you can see inside there. And then as well, in addition, as well, I'm being told at school, as well is not a word. My apologies as a teacher. Okay, so we start now seeing a real sense of depth that exists here. But we got to break it up. Anyone can draw these little boxed houses. So what's going to happen is somebody needed a mudguard for their bicycle, and so they needed to take out a small piece of wood here, and I may have been guilty of that as a boy, where we've taken out a little slat here, and let's color that in so you can see straight dark into the side of the building there. That's a little bit broken down. We take a little slat out there, all right, and as a result of that, the other one going the other way has also fallen out, and we've got a little gap there. All right, so what that does is it continues to show the way things are built here. Now, let's go down, and unfortunately at the bottom here, we've got a couple of slats that are missing. All right, so you can have one darker line, and a darker line, and a darker line. We color that in, so it starts looking like, goodness gracious, I think this building may need a little bit of tender loving care and attention. But again, that's where we start looking at stories and how things, what has been around this particular building over time. Okay, now I want you to think about, whilst we are doing these lines, we're going to put some lines on the front here to show the slats at the front of this building, because they're really quite exciting. Right, we're going to do just these, and this is where it's exciting, just to draw simple lines coming out. But if you do start and you just keep going up, what tends to happen sometimes is you lose your way and you get up the top and suddenly there's a huge triangle here. So what you want to do is start halfway in between both of these, so they're equidistant there and equidistant there, and then you split those in half again, and you split that in half. And so that you never really then lose track of the angle of your lines. All right. So now I want to talk very quickly about, if you think about the content of your artwork, we're to talk about here, we're talking very basically about a house on a flat road. We're just filling in these lines, these planks that exist here. And I want you to think about your business and ask yourself, what is the content about your business? Not only that, what is the content factor of your business? So how content are you about the content? That's a tricky one. How content are you about the content? Okay, so we've got those lines that are coming out. Hey, it's actually looking quite nice there. We've got some light coming in. We can start seeing the slats. And in some of them, you can go a little bit darker where they may have had a little bit of space, so we get some texture to come out off the top of the lintel of the door there perhaps. We can scribble backwards from that so that we get some texture and some exciting information happening there. I'm just going to zoom you in a bit more so that you can see the way I'm doing that building there. We see a little bit of texture coming out the side of the slats as they come in. All right, so you can see the what would you call it? The character that starts happening, where there might be a piece that's fallen off. All right, so that's that side. On the back here, we're going to do exactly the same thing again. And how would you do that? You want to just make sure it's halfway, and then halfway again, halfway, and then you keep going halfway in between. And you can use where the one ends at the front, use that as your guide. You just keep going from that one at the front, and it goes backwards and backwards and backwards. Okay. There, so we start seeing this is quite a cool little drawing of, you can almost picture it like being a Meccano set of wood where you start putting it together. Vicky Peterson from I Go Travel. Give her a shout. If you're interested in going somewhere, planning your next trip, which will be very soon. You want to get ahead whilst the prices are good. Vicky's your goal. All right, so we're looking at creating some character into this building. You want to be able to constantly think, where is the variety, the light and dark that I can throw in? And once you've done that basic drawing, what you want it to be able to do is then just do a scribble, a very light scribble over the top. You will still be able to see your lines, but what we're doing is we're creating a little bit of a shadow on this side, on the right-hand side here. Okay, so there we go. We've got that right-hand side of the building taken care of. All right. Maybe at the bottom right-hand side there's a bit of chaos. Somebody's ripped off the bottom of the brick there. So we've got that fallen away. Now this whole front piece here, you're thinking that perhaps maybe there's a little sign. Okay, so I've got my vertical coming in there, and then the same sort of height on the other side. Remember how high do you want to make this? You start there, you keep going, you'll find that you should be able to keep that. All right there. All right, and now you can put your, here you can put your business name on top of your building. This is where it originally started, many, many years ago. Right, and it may have evolved, but we can put a Coca-Cola sign. All right, or you can scribble something in there. That could be a sign from a long time ago. And a little trademark at the bottom. Make a little design in there. You can put your name. Send your picture to Vicky and say, this is where I want to go on my next holiday. There. Okay, looks quite exciting. And once you've got that sort of scribble, then it's an option to have a, remember you want to okay. Now we've got to speed along a little bit now. We've spent quite a bit of time establishing this area. Let's give ourselves a little bit of breathing space at the top left-hand side of our building here. We want our roof to hang over a little bit on the left-hand side there. If we get it to hang over a little bit, that gives us a bit of breathing space and gives that little corner on the edge there. What that will do is just show that it's just hanging over, and that's quite nice there. It gives us some space. We don't have it on the side here at the back, but what you can do is you can just squeeze off a little bit of a triangle at the back there as well. Okay, so this is now where we get to the point of being able to take a step back, and you want to look at the whole picture and see, is this coming together nicely? Okay, that is our basic shape. We've got our horizon. Now let's move into completing this entire thing. You want to do just above the horizon, the width of your pen. You want to dribble along, up and down, wobble. You're creating a very distant range of mountains in the background. So there's a very flat road that is disappearing out there, and maybe those would be some very distant mountains in the very, very distance. All right. And how those mountains are supposed to, you just wobble along. There's no real definition. And so those of you that think that you may not be artists, you've just created a mountain range, and it is very easy to just wobble along. You want to avoid having peaks like on a chocolate box, because this is quite local, maybe the central interior of the subcontinent. So it's nice, flat, vast areas out there. Okay, and from here now, what we're wanting to look at doing is creating more information by coming from our background, our little dot there. We come out and creating these flares that are now going to meet the bottom of our building. Okay, so we're creating like the verge of the road, perhaps, where from that little point we're coming out, and we create 3 or 4 lines that are taking up that space in between our first line, or second line that we brought out, and in between that one. So we're then getting a little bit of texture that's happening on the right-hand side there. Okay, and the same sort of thing, you see how far we've come up. You start seeing that there's, again, on the other side as well, you want to do the same thing, so we get another little bit of a line to come out. And scribble that out there. So we're again getting the mess on the side of the road there. Okay. All right. So there's this big territory in the middle now that you think, how can I fill the space up? So we're going to create what would be called a railway line, because these are at a nice big crossroads that we have at the back of your house. You're hoping that it is not too close to your horizon, because we are wanting to create a railway line that's going to cross over our road just above the base of our house, not too far away towards the horizon, just behind the base of our house there. We're going to take a line that goes horizontally all the way across the page. All right, because that's going to be our railway line that crosses over the road. And if we were to keep going horizontally, hopefully it will come out just behind the back of the house as well. Okay, so that is our horizontal line that's going across. It's breaking up our line. Okay, now this line shows a total contrast to the direction that exists. That would be going that way. We then have a direction that is going to contrast that. Right, and it's the same thing that sort of exists if we think about how an artwork is created. All right, how an artwork is created when we analyze it is, what does it look like in terms of its line, its form, the way that it is shaped, and its color, and that sort of thing. And line often asks the question of the direction. And that would be the next thing I want you to think about, is what is the direction that you are going in at the moment? Well, personally, perhaps, not saying literally where you're sitting, perhaps doing drawing, but I want you to think about where you're going this year. And that sense of direction might be the direction that your business is going in as well. And it's sometimes very easy to be able to get an idea of, well, I'm just repeating and doing the same thing, and so that's not a problem. And it's sometimes very easy to ask that question, what do I find if I were to continue doing this? It defines an element of success perhaps, where if I'm going correctly in the right direction, I'm getting towards a destination. And there's this chap, Ed Helm, who spoke at the opening of Knox University's inauguration. I'm drawing these little vertical dots on the railway line here to create a bit of texture where those sleepers would go. So these little verticals, little dots that go along the railway line here, tiny little dots, which are the little sleeper bolts. And what Ed Helm said, a little bit controversial perhaps, he said, what is the definition of a successful life? He said, perhaps it is to become president. Perhaps it is to be a great parent. Perhaps you picture yourself marrying a stripper from a movie and ripping your tooth out, all of which are noble pursuits. But it's very easy to ask yourself what it is that you want. A far more difficult question, one that can bring breathtaking clarity, is what is it that you fear? And if you think about the direction that you've been going in, what is it that you fear in the pursuit of that direction? And that is something that perhaps sometimes brings clarity to us not pursuing something because we're worried that that thing is going to happen. And as we all know, sometimes 90% of the time those things never happen. All right, so we are going across here. Line, it's the first one, the direction. Let's put, at this crossing now, just in front of it, we're going to put a vertical line in here. Vertical line is going to cross over from the road up, and we're going to put another line next to it. All right, so it's a pole going straight up. A little flat line on the top of it. Line is the direction that you're usually analyzing an artwork when you talk about its form. Then they talk about color, and color is the thing that makes it different. All right, what is it that makes you different? And are you using that difference when it comes to your business? Is one of the fascinating things. Like, you are unique. Everybody is unique. But are you able to use that uniqueness? Because that is what makes you special and gives you a unique sense of direction. And so that combination is sometimes what evades people. On the top of this little triangle here, we're going to put a flat T-bar and then some little circles that would be flashing lights that might say, wait, there's a train coming. Little circles on the top of your T-bar. All right. And then underneath that, we have a little triangle. We have a triangle. Oh, that's much better. Okay. And that says that you're coming up to this. Well, now what do you usually see? If you can picture, if you were to do the signs for coming up to a railway line, what is it usually? It's usually these little crosses, an X sign underneath the triangle to say, oh, there's a train, there's a crossover. All right, so we've got that in there. And then let's put another triangle. Let's overdo it. Let's put a triangle on the top of that as well. That's really quite exciting. We had another triangle on the top of that. I can think, what is that picture that they put on signs, those triangles? Let's zoom you in here so that you can see what they put on top of. I'll make you dizzy. But if we look at the shapes that we have on top of these little triangles, and we've got, what is the picture of the train that they draw? They usually draw a rectangle standing up, right, a tall rectangle. Off the left-hand side of the rectangle, they've got a curve that curves down to the left, and off the bottom side of the rectangle, they've got a curve that goes back up way towards the bottom there. All right, because that is the train disappearing backwards. That is a horrendous sign. I don't think anyone would stop for that. But then at the top of this rectangle, they've got another rectangle that they split in half as the windscreen. And then at the bottom as well, they've got the vertical cow catcher as well. Amazing how some little boxes can make you possibly think that this might be a train. And then we've got a little circle for the light right in the center there. Maybe that's going to work. Happy 21st birthday to you, James, for tomorrow. That's a big milestone. Well done. Okay, and in the front face of it, let's color around our little light there. That's magical. In theory, that should tell you there's a train. But maybe you will need a beautiful imagination in order to see that. Let's zoom out there again and let's look back at our main scene. We should, that's a lovely basic landscape that we've got. We want to, last of all, give us a little bit of a haze in the background here by that mountain range. We're just going to scribble that in so that we've got an area here at the back. Okay, and then again we take it off to the right hand side as well. That's going to give us a little bit of ink to work with. Oh, a big shout out to Laura and Chandra from Accountancy Placements. They are the best. And obviously a very good friend, Jean Rose, who's a legend in the world of education and an artist in her own right. The world owes Jean a huge debt of gratitude for the work that she has done with education over the years. Really, really, really one of the world's greatest educators, and a huge Huge respect. So nice to have you join us this evening, Jean. The lines that you can now, last of all, before we pick up this brush, we want to be able to just bring a couple of dots out towards us. We can create from that vanishing point there, we're just going to come out towards us, do a little bit of a scribble. And what you want to do is bring out a little bit of, don't scrub out the whole way. You're just wanting to be able to bring one or two dots coming in. And you can picture those being little pebbles on the road. Perhaps you're just going to scribble in there a couple of dots. And there we go. All right. Now this accommodation, if you're looking for the opposite of this accommodation, the best accommodation, you want to head up into the Midlands to Cranford House, where you get in touch with Alex Drew. Oh my word, you'll never want to leave. It'll be awkward. Alex Drew, give her a shout there. Alex and Alex, both such lovely humans. Right, so we've got that, and when this lockdown, we're going to just, let's do a little bit of a horizontal shading on the right-hand side, on the right-hand side of this building, just to give us a little bit of form off the base on the right there. Once this lockdown ends, if you do want to go to a very romantic getaway, Cranford House. Oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. Now what you're going to need is a paintbrush. We are at the part where we can take the paintbrush, and you're going to need a little bit of water. You just need a very simple, preferably not a brush that you would paint the wall with, just a simple water brush. And with that, you're going to dip it in a bit of water. And let's start out with somewhere where the background maybe is a good place to start. You're just going to run that brush over the top of this here. There we get. Watch out for your little sign. Take a step over the top of that. And you run your brush over across the top of that. You'll find that it's going to just get a nice blend coming in there. Try and stay within the lines. I hate saying that, but it's quite nice when that allows you to create that block at the back there. With that ink that's still on the brush, give yourself a chance to do another line just above it that you can run, not a replication, it's a distant mountain. So you're picking up the ink from this one and you're running on top in the background there. It will have another shadow that runs up, and you get some lovely information happening by saying that there's another distant range that is existing behind that one. But leave a gap of light so you get that misty dip into there. Okay, now that that is nice and simple, we want to then run along our original line that came forward here. Have a bit of water on that brush, and you want to run your line nice and thin, the tip of the brush. As you come further forward, you can press harder with that brush, and it'll get to expand, and you then start seeing a little bit of that depth starting to come out. Okay, so we've picked up color, and the idea with this water-based ink is that it's really quite exciting in that you get a lot of mileage for a little bit of work, and that's the idea, is that if you think efficiently, you can get these results coming out. They're really quite wicked. And we go on top of the sides of the back here. This beautiful detail that you've put in, you want to be very careful of obliterating it. So if you just wash over the top of it, it'll be destroyed. You want to make sure that you're just doing some delicate lines. You're almost drawing it again. And by doing that, you're not going in the opposite direction to the lines that you were drawing. You get some lovely blend happening, and you allow the marks that you made to stay there. You still see a little bit of them underneath. Okay, and then at the bottom here as well, let's get that shadow coming off the base there. You really pull it off the side. So we get this light that is existing from the left-hand side. It comes through onto the face here, and then it juxtaposes onto the right-hand side. And inside our little barn at the back here, I'm going to just color that in to make it a little bit darker. Hopefully we get a bit of darkness there. There we go. And then the same in the front here. We color in our... And the left-hand side all should be darker than the right. Wherever you've put more ink, you're likely to get a darker shadow coming through. Right, so we spoke about how these different lines, and if we compare it to what we do every day, we're looking for more of these little washes. We're going to run out of time now. We've got to be quite quick about this. Let's run some vertical lines through here out towards us. We're talking about the content of your artwork. So I'm jumping around here. Let's stay in those lines coming out towards you. And then the detail that you can pick up, but you want to be careful of what I like to call obliterating, is the detail in the foreground here on the front light areas. You want to leave some of it to just be ink, the ink drawing, because what you want to avoid the obliteration. There's some beautiful elements that come, and you can drop it down on the top of this roof here. As the roof sneaks over, you can drop that line down. So it's like rust has come off that corrugated iron, and it dribbles down over the front cornice. A little bit of a raking cornice on the left-hand side there. Exciting times, the way this guy's got a fresh coat of paint. And yeah, I think we've all got a fresh coat of paint in these innovative times. We do a little triangle in there on our left-hand side for our sign, and we're running the line of water on top of it as well, over our little cross, down to the base. And then you don't have to paint in your beautiful train sign. It can stay nice and sharp if we run that on the top there. All right. Oops. Okay, and it's actually quite exciting this evening. Usually our Panasonic sponsors button to our imagery and have Panasonic screaming across the page. I'm glad we didn't have that this evening, but great to have Panasonic on board, and Pilot Fineliner. So what we're going to do now is, you see this entire piece has sort of come together. That is where we are likely to be able to end it for the evening by being able to have a railway line come across on the side there, this railway line. Now, we have also had Business Networking International, the Capital Chapter, doing this as a team event this evening. And that's really quite exciting. I know they meet on Thursdays, and to be able to compare drawings and just share in something that's working together with colleagues, I suppose, and sharing beautiful creative moments. You can't get this wrong. And the whole idea is that you want to have had a step back from this process. So let's move you back. And I want to just say to you, you can perhaps put your pens down and put your brushes down, because there is a risk of you obliterating it. You want to just try and keep it nice and simple. If anything, you can put your name down the bottom left-hand side, or the bottom right-hand side, and there you are, good to go. I want you to try and remember from this evening what were the things that we looked at for analyzing an artwork, and perhaps analyzing as we go through life day to day. The content, and being content about our content, because we're very lucky to be in the space that we are. Content of the artwork, what is actually happening, what is happening in our lives at the moment in this environment of disconnect. We can reconnect. People are great at connecting. And then the other side of things, once you move past the content, you look at the form. So line, color, composition, all the elements of how they come together. Line, the direction that you're going in. Color, what makes you different, and are you using that? And then the balance of composition, we perhaps didn't get a chance to talk about that. And then lastly, context. All right, so how does all this fit in? And if you've chosen to do this evening, I think that's wicked. That you're a part of just trying something new. And it's so simple. It's so easy to be able to just put a couple of lines together if we're following step by step. If you got a little bit lost, that is my fault. And I apologize. But if you've stumbled your way through to the end and you've created something that's, I think you can be very proud of, don't hide it in the spare bathroom. Keep them together. And we'll see you next week, perhaps, to do another one. And I would like you to please take a photo and send us your pictures so that we can have a look and give us a shout out to where you were actually doing this from, because it's nice to be a part of this big reconnect during our disconnect. And that's the secret, to stay positive, to be interactive, and stay connected. The art is a lovely way of doing that. So if you aren't happy with this evening and you want to give us an angry face, that is fine. Or if you want to give us a smiley thumbs up, that is fine as well. But I have to say again, you must put your brushes down, because I know some of you are still fiddling. So let it go. There are people in the room here this evening in the gallery that are still fiddling. So when the we need to stop now and have a look, reflect, and we will see you hopefully next week. Thank you so much for joining us. New times next week as we drop down to level 3, and there's some exciting things happening as we move forward into that new generation of being together as one. Thank you for being a part of us, and we'll see you next week.